We're counting down the top 10 farm families that built American food empires through crime, corruption, and even terror. From polluted groundwater and secret price fixing to mafia cheese rackets and paramilitary payoffs, these stories expose the dark side of brands you recognize on grocery shelves. Which criminal legacy tops the list? Let's get started with number 10. Hillmar Cheese Cooperative started as a small dairy processor in California's Central Valley back in 1984. Today, it handles millions of pounds of milk every day, churning out cheese that ends up in products across the globe. But behind the factory doors, Hillmar spent years dumping untreated wastewater, polluting the groundwater beneath local communities. In 2006, the EPA slapped the company with a $3 million fine for violating the Clean Water Act, a record penalty for a dairy at the time. Residents complained of foul smells and water so contaminated it was unsafe to drink or bathe. Hillmar was forced to upgrade its filtration, but the damage to wells and families lingered long after the headlines faded. Masked riders on horseback swept through the tobacco fields of Kentucky and Tennessee in the dead of night. From 1906 to 1908, these so-called night riders torched barns, burned warehouses, and left threats nailed to doors, all to force local farmers and buyers to join their price-fixing alliance. On December 1, 1907, they struck Hopkinsville, setting fire to the Planters Protective Association warehouse while townspeople watched helplessly. Lynchings and arson became tools of economic warfare, turning rural communities into battlegrounds. For several years, entire towns lived in fear, their futures dictated by the shadowy justice of the night riders. Number 8 lands in New York, where the Bonanno crime family turned pizza cheese into a racket. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, nearly every pizzeria in the city was forced to buy Grande cheese, a brand hand-picked by the mob. If a shop owner tried to go around the system, threats or violence followed. Behind the scenes, Bonanno associates laundered kickbacks through shell companies, using the cheese trade to funnel millions. The FBI's Pizza Connection investigation exposed the scheme, linking mozzarella deliveries to heroin trafficking and money laundering. By 1987, dozens of mobsters faced racketeering convictions, but the cheese kept flowing. Number 7 goes to the Salyer family, once a powerhouse in the produce business. Salyer American distributed fruits and vegetables to schools, hospitals, and supermarkets nationwide. But behind the fresh labels, executives engineered a $100 million fraud, bribing buyers, rigging prices, and faking inspection reports to boost profits. Federal prosecutors caught on in 2009, charging company leaders with wire fraud and conspiracy. The case revealed years of inflated contracts and kickbacks that cost public institutions millions. By 2010, Salyer American was dissolved, its assets liquidated, and top executives convicted in federal court. The scandal left a bitter taste, but the damage had already been done. August 2010 brought a public health nightmare to breakfast tables across America. Eggs traced to DeCoster family farms in Iowa carried a dangerous strain of salmonella, triggering a nationwide recall of more than 550 million eggs. Over 550 people fell ill, with cases confirmed in dozens of states. FDA inspectors found squalid, rodent-infested barns and falsified safety records at the heart of the outbreak. Employees described warnings ignored and conditions that put profits before safety. The DeCosters, Jack and his son Peter, faced federal charges for introducing adulterated food into interstate commerce. In 2015, both men were sentenced to prison and ordered to pay nearly $7 million in fines. The scandal forced supermarkets to pull eggs from shelves and left families wary of what might be lurking in their kitchens. Even after rebranding, the DeCoster name remains synonymous with repeat violations and industrial negligence. In June 1995, a Smithfield Foods waste lagoon ruptured in North Carolina, sending 25 million gallons of untreated hog waste surging into the New River. The spill killed millions of fish and left local water supplies fouled for miles downstream. For families living near these industrial hog farms, the stench and constant threat of contamination became part of daily life. Black and Latino neighborhoods, often clustered closest to the sprawling facilities, faced higher rates of asthma and waterborne illness. By 2018, 24 juries awarded $550 million in punitive damages to residents harmed by the pollution, though court appeals later reduced the payouts. Smithfield's operations drew repeated warnings from the EPA and became a rallying point for environmental justice groups. Despite new waste controls and ongoing legal battles, Smithfield remains the nation's largest pork producer, its legacy defined as much by environmental catastrophe as by its dominance of the American meat aisle. Tyson Foods grew from a Depression-era chicken hauler into the nation's top poultry powerhouse, packing supermarket shelves with familiar brands. But between 2012 and 2017, Tyson executives secretly coordinated with rivals to rig the price of chicken across America. Internal emails and private meetings revealed a pattern, sharing production plans, limiting supply, and pushing prices higher for everyone, from fast food chains to families at home. The Department of Justice launched an antitrust investigation, followed by a wave of class action lawsuits demanding restitution for billions in overcharges. While Tyson paid $221 million in fines and settlements, the fallout didn't end there. Workers inside Tyson plants faced some of the highest injury rates in the food industry, according to OSHA records, while contract farmers, locked into one-sided deals, often ended up deep in debt or bankruptcy. Tyson's dominance came at a cost paid by consumers, workers, and small-town growers alike. Chiquita's story begins with a familiar sticker, bright blue, stamped on bananas in kitchens across America. But behind the brand lies a record of violence and corporate reckoning that stretches far beyond grocery aisles. From 1997 to 2004, Chiquita Brands International, the successor to United Fruit, made a series of secret payments totaling $1.7 million to the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia, or AUC, a right-wing paramilitary group designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the U.S. government. Internal company memos, later revealed in court, showed that Chiquita's top executives approved these payments even after being warned by U.S. officials that supporting the AUC was illegal. The money bought so-called protection for Chiquita's plantations, but in Colombia, it fueled a campaign of terror. Thousands killed, entire villages displaced, and union leaders targeted for assassination. The company's history of violence didn't start there. Under its old name, United Fruit, the firm was linked to the 1928 banana massacre in Colombia, where government troops opened fire on striking workers, and to the 1954 coup in Guatemala that toppled a democratically elected president. Decades later, Chiquita pleaded guilty in U.S. federal court to financing terrorism. In March 2007, the company accepted a $25 million fine from the Department of Justice, the first time a major American corporation admitted to paying terrorist groups. Families of Colombian victims continue to pursue civil lawsuits, arguing that Chiquita's money left a trail of blood and broken communities. Despite the scandal, Chiquita remains a global giant, its bananas still a fixture in stores, its legacy shadowed by the cost of doing business in conflict zones. Stuart and Linda Resnick own the wonderful company, a $5 billion powerhouse behind grocery staples like Palm Wonderful Juice, Fiji Water, Wonderful Pistachios, and Halo's Mandarins. Their empire stretches across the Central Valley, with orchards and vineyards as far as the eye can see. But the Resnick's real power lies below the surface, in water. During California's historic drought from 2009 to 2016, while small towns watched their wells run dry, the Resnicks secured more water than almost anyone else. They control about 57% of the Kern Water Bank, one of the largest underground reserves in the state, capable of storing enough water for millions of people each year. Investigations by the LA Times and Reveal traced how the Resnicks used political donations and close ties to water district officials to maintain their grip, extracting hundreds of thousands of acre-feet even as local communities rationed and farms folded. Critics called it a water oligarchy, where billionaires dictated who got to drink and who had to haul bottled water. The wonderful company's reach didn't stop at the aquifer. In 2012, the Federal Trade Commission fined Palm Wonderful $1.5 million for making deceptive health claims about its juice, promising everything from heart health to cancer prevention without scientific backing. Despite the controversies, the Resnick's brand still dominates store shelves, their profits fueled by resources most Californians could only dream of accessing. Barefoot, Carlo Rossi, Andre, Apothic. These Gallo labels fill entire wine aisles, controlling up to 30% of the U.S. market. Founded in 1933, the Gallo family's empire traces its roots to post-prohibition Modesto, fueled by relentless expansion and rumors of early bootlegging. The infamous 1980s lawsuit between Joseph Gallo and his brothers barred him from using his own name on cheese, exposing deep family rifts and the company's iron grip on its brand. Today, Gallo's dominance is undeniable. America's best-selling wines, built on decades of aggressive tactics and a legacy that still shapes what ends up in your glass. From small-town dairy polluters to global empires funding violence, our countdown of the top 10 farm families that acted like mafia exposes a hidden side of America's food industry. At the bottom of the list, Hillmar Cheese's $3 million pollution fine seemed minor next to the Night Rider's reign of terror and the Bonanno mob's control of New York's cheese supply. But as we moved up the ranks, the scale and impact of crimes grew. The Salyer family's $100 million fraud, the DeCoster's salmonella outbreak sickening hundreds, and Smithfield's hog waste catastrophe poisoning entire communities. The top three shocked with their reach: Chiquita brand's payments to Colombian death squads, the Resnick's control of California's water, and the Gallo family's dominance of the wine aisle, built on decades of aggressive, sometimes ruthless tactics. The common thread? Unchecked power, often hiding behind everyday brands on your grocery shelf. This list proves that criminal behavior in agriculture isn't just history, it's woven into the food we eat today. So next time you see these products, remember, some farm empires were built less on soil and more on crime.